Now I'm nervous. Okay, so I think this is one of the things that I think, because it's something that I think each of us can resonate with so easily. It was an easier concept to sort of start to see. So I'll try and keep this as simple as I possibly can. All right. Each of us, each living mammal, physiology operates very similarly. So let's consider, I don't have a cup, guys, but I have a really big mug. So let's consider this as a dog's emotional cup. All right. Now, in street dogs, maybe it's a crazy life they lead, actually. There's so many triggers. And when I say triggers, and I think maybe I'll clarify what I mean when I say triggers, right? I mean anything that gets a dog to be stressed, anxious, or excited. And that's an important one for us to remember, the excitement part of it, right? Because that's the role that we play. And I have a couple of examples to share, but I'll come to that later. So every time a dog is getting stressed, excited, or anxious, there is a release of multiple hormones and chemicals in the body, just simply because the stress response has been activated. Right now, this we can all resonate with, happens to everyone. It's biological, it's there for survival, completely normal. Okay, now every time a dog is getting stressed, let's say the stressor lasts for about 30 seconds, you've got adrenaline, you've got cortisol building in the system. All right, now in pet dogs, it looks a lot different, because what street dogs have that pet dogs don't have is the aspect of choice to a large extent, of managing the environment, of saying no to an interaction wherever possible and walking away. And there's a couple of caveats to that, but I'll finish this first. Now, every time a street dog is facing a trigger that's causing their stress response to get activated, that's causing the body to move from that rest and digest state to getting ready, getting the muscles ready for action, to say, hey, look, you got to switch off everything else. And, you literally fight and flight, right? And in dogs, it's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, right? So there's multiple more ways in which they actually have to cope with that, or express that. But every time a dog is being exposed to a trigger, this cup is getting full. All right, and this cup, it's not infinite. It gets full at some point, and this happens for all of us. Now, when a dog's cup gets full, that's when you're likely to see certain behaviors that people will commonly call as hyperactive. Oh, this dog is too hyperactive. That dog is too triggered, right? That's the word we would use, but it's often mistaken for hyperactivity. And in that moment, right, when a dog's cup is full and nothing changes in the environment, the triggers are still coming in, the cup overflows, and that's when you see certain behaviors like lunging, growling, and biting. Okay, and what we usually do in that moment is, like I said earlier, we stop. Hey, what happened here? This happened, this person. But the truth is, it wouldn't matter. If an animal's cup is so full, the trigger, anyone could be a trigger. Anything could be a trigger at this point, right? So what we really want to do is try and make sure that we start to see and we understand that, hey, look, when a dog is expressing dysregulated behavior, like when their cup is full, it's hyperactivity. So you'll see signs of restlessness, inability to sleep, excessive jumping, excessive barking, right? It's almost like they're ready to go. Any small thing, and the response is very big, right? And a good example that I think Sindhu shares in the course as well is, let's assume that I've had a really hard day, right? It's the end of the day for me. I've had it up to here. My cup is full, so to speak, right? And someone comes and taps me from the back. And knowing me, honestly, I would turn around and snap in that moment, right? Because I've already had it up to here, and then someone comes, taps me from the back. I'm not in a good state of mind. I'm not able to process it for what it is. But let's say it's another day. I'm in a great state of mind. I'm having a good day. I'm feeling good. Same person, same time, same situation. Someone comes and taps me at the back. At the most, I might turn around and say, hey, what's up? Same person, right? And this is important for us to understand, because dogs have a repertoire of behaviors, and all of them fall within their ethogram. That is, from growling, lunging, biting, all dogs are capable of all of these things. But when a dog is expressing behaviors like distance creating behaviors, to Sindhu's point, which are behaviors that you see when the cup starts to overflow, you know that, okay, that's really, the dog has had it up to here. There's no point us adding more to it. There's no point. And this is where I think in Bangalore they have a thing where if a dog is displaying, loud behaviors, aggressive behaviors, that they're taken away for 7 days and they're brought back, right? And they say, oh, nothing happens in those 7 days, and the dog is fine. And then it takes a couple of days, couple more weeks, where the cup gets full again because they're back in the same environment. You've got a few people who are maybe not treating the dog well, or the dog's main source of resources, there's no security around resources, right? That's a big trigger. Maybe the dog has some trauma, some pain. There's so many factors to consider. But the point I'm trying to make is, as caregivers, for us, it's important to understand that a lot happens before a dog actually starts to bite, right? And for us to start looking at what are those smaller signs. And it really starts in the simplest way that I can possibly explain this sort of dysregulation is a dog, their response is inappropriate to the trigger, right? Like my response to someone coming and tapping me on the back is inappropriate. All I had to do was turn around and say what. But in that moment, my thinking skills are completely not, they're not active, right? Because my body is in survival mode. So these are dogs who are not able to even process the environment for what it is, because that environment is constantly keeping them in a triggered state of mind, right? And I think we can talk about some of the key pieces that act as, hey, if we can, like here we had there was, I think it was in Indranagar, and the dog had started to jump on people a lot, anyone who walked by in the evenings when they were going for walks. And I remember talking to Saujanya about this, one of our first Parks graduate actually, and she had suggested, hey, look, why don't you just keep in mind those 3 or 4 main important things that a dog on the street needs to feel secure. They need to have their shelter sorted out, right? A space where that's identified. They need to have their feeding, the security around eating, the security around who feeds them, and they need to have security around social connection, right? So she reminded me saying, hey, look, just keep it basic. Identify those 3 people, identify those 3 or 4 situations where a dog really needs as a base to start to feel secure. Start with what's simple. Start with what, because they, at the end of the day, to Sindhu's point, we may not actually ever know what the exact triggers were. We can't stop. We can't even, I mean, these are dogs that live on the street. We can't say, okay, no more delivery boys, no more. We can't do any of that. But what we can do is, there are certain things that we can do from our end to keep these core pieces, or meet the dog's core need for these 4 or 5 key things. And I'll give you one small example from Richmond Town that we had. There was a dog who every night she would start to chase vehicles. She would also sit under the vegetable carts, and it started to become an issue. And she had a great caregiver who was like, look, let me know anything that we need to do, and we'll start to explore. So we almost looked at it as a sort of a inside outside hybrid dog situation, because she said, you can use my basement at the night times to start to. So what we did there, we identified that this dog just wasn't sleeping, just wasn't getting good quality of sleep, right? And the thing was, we all know this, if we're triggered, we can't sleep, but we need to sleep it off because we need that to sort of feel better. It helps absorb residual cortisol, right? So what we did was, we actually had and of course, this is a street dog, so you can't put them on a leash, right? They're not going to be okay being tethered or confined in any way. And that's not the approach anyway, because the objective is to sort of get the dog to be in a better state of mind. So what we started to do, we just made 2 changes. One was, we said, hey, look, every evening, give her a bone to chew in your basement, put her on a 5-meter long leash, and let her sleep at night in your basement. And this was not a fundamental of lifestyle change. It was, hey, for the next couple of weeks, let's try this out, right? And the remarkable thing that happened, and that dog is still there, her name is Sonu. The remarkable thing happened was, all that dog needed was a little bit of a reset, a little bit of help to bring her to a sort of a state of mind where her cup is not so full. Because what happens when the cup is so full is everything becomes a trigger to me. I'm not able to see things for what they are. I'm overwhelmed with everything, right? So the minute we were able to tackle her sleep, and of course we got the benefit of also saying, hey, look, you can chew, and de-stress yourself from there, because at Barks we use a couple of key, sort of techniques to help drain the cup, so to speak, and one of them is chewing. The minute we were able to do that, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks where we followed this routine, and then she was back on the streets. But that's all the reset she needed, because once she was back on the streets, she was able to sort of understand that, hey, I'm not so triggered. It's not a trigger anymore, right? It's not life and death. I don't need to chase it away before it harms me. And that's, I think, the important thing for us to sort of understand. I'm going to pass it to Sindur because